Hope you are aware the election tensions are high. We are informing you already that the 2027 General Elections calendar is out. It is hot, back to back. Even myself, I'm feeling the tension already. 20th of February 2027, big day. What are you doing? 2023 elections, were they free, fair and credible? The position I held once. Note, the police is not the head of the polling unit. It is the PVC. None of this would concern you if you have not registered for your PVC. At this time of the year in Nigeria, the election tensions are high. Trust me, very, very high. Do you know why? I guess you know already. The election timetable for the 2027 elections is out. If you are not aware, I'm sure we are informing you already that the 2027 General Elections calendar is out. I'll just give you a brief rundown of the calendar. See, it is hot, back to back. Tensions are arising in several quarters. Even myself, I'm feeling the tension already, and I will not be contesting. 22nd of May to 20th of June 2026, party primary. So all parties should have their primaries between 22nd of May to 20th of June 2026. Then on the 27th of August is the deadline for submission of nomination forms for Presidential and National Assembly. Then on the 23rd of September is the commencement of campaign for Presidential and National Assembly. On the 24th of September is the deadline for submission of nomination forms. And on the 7th of October is the commencement of campaign for governorship and state assembly. Back to back, right? In 2027, these are the schedules for 2027. On the 18th of February is the last day of campaign for presidential and national assembly elections. And on the 20th of February 2027, big day, we are going to be having the presidential and the national assembly election, and I'm sure you already aware. I don't need to inform you or remind you that the National Assembly is comprised of two houses. Hope you are aware. The House of Representatives and, yes, you got it right, the Senate. The next one is on the 4th of March. We'll be having it's going to be the last day of the campaigns for governorship elections and state assembly elections. And on the 8th of March, we'll be having the governorship elections and the state assembly elections back to back. It's going to be hot. I'm sure in your respective states, you are going to already be seeing several campaign buses, posters, and banners already. But like I promised in the last video, I would be doing some explanation on this manual, the manual for election officials. Yes, it's for election officials, but you and I can learn one or two things from this manual, and even reading it again reminds me a lot, because it's been quite some months since I engaged in the election, which was the by-elections for a particular constituency in the state where I had my NYC here. So it's massive. So let's just dive right into it. The election process, starting from the mission, vision, and guiding principles of the INEC. Now, just to be specific, I'm not ahead of everyone. This is the manuals for 2023 elections. So I hope that there's going to be a revision, especially with the way the Senate is presently looking at the process of the election, how that the results are going to be turned in. I'm going to make a full video on that, but today's video we are only talking about the election processes, what you need to know as a potential voter. And see, none of this would concern you if you have not registered for your PVC. So as soon as you are done watching this video, go get registered for your PVC. Go on your browser, type INEC registration portal. It's going to take you there. You fill in your details, when you are done, actually, let me even tell you, yes, I saw that a very big stat on the INEC official Instagram page, where they said that as of 6th of February 2026, there are only 884,737 registered voters. Between December and now, we've only had 884,737 voters. What are you doing? We have millions of Nigerians who can get their voter card. Please go and get registered. And a shocking number is that 57% of these registered voters are females and 43% are males. Come on, go and get your voters card. Go and get registered. Do not wait for anyone. That's your friend who is delaying you and making you procrastinate. Stop that. Go and get your PVC. Go and get registered and let's go. Now, coming back to the manual, I'll just read some part of that. We'll just be talking about the chapter 1, the mission and vision of INEC, and just a bit of chapter 2. Chapter 2 is the major chapter. Probably will have a part 2 of this video, probably later in the year or when the elections are really drawing closer, so that we would have a clear view of what the election is going to be like, because most of these 884,000 plus voters are first time voters. Most of them are first time voters, so you need to know what elections are all about. So join me in this video. Welcome back. As I said, we are treating the mission, vision and guiding principles of the INEC, and also the chapter 1 and just a bit of chapter 2 of this INEC manual. I'll just read through some few points and explain. So this is the mission of the INEC. I'll just read out. It said, to serve as an independent and effective election management body committed to the conduct of free, fair and credible elections for sustainable democracy in Nigeria. I have a question. As the election, or let's use 2023 as this manual says, 2023 elections, were they free, fair and credible? Let me know your answers in the comment section, please. Very, very important. I would like to know if the elections for 2023 were free, fair and credible. Now, the vision of the INEC is to be one of the best election management bodies in the world that meets the aspiration of the Nigerian people. One of the best in the world. I'll probably do a research and see if there is a statistics on the best election bodies, management bodies in the world, and see where the INEC is ranking. I will put that up for you to see. Then their guiding principles, I'll just list them as autonomy, transparency, integrity, credibility, impartiality, dedication, equity, excellence and teamwork. So these are the guiding principles of the INEC. I'll just read 2 or 3. Under autonomy, say relentlessness in the pursuit of autonomy for effective electoral service. I hope they are going to do that more in 2027 elections. There's transparency also, openness in all activities and in relations with stakeholders, the media, service providers and the people of Nigeria. Massive. This transparency is quite needed. We do not want any blurry part in the 2027 election. So let's move straight on to chapter 1. The introduction, elections and the electoral process in Nigeria. A lot of Nigerians don't know what the electoral process is like, and that is why we don't know how to participate. The only thing we know is that go get your PVC and vote, and that's all. No, there's an electoral process. It's not just election. There are several processes to it, and that's what we are going to be looking at just in a bit. And just reading here, said the commission in line with section 15A of part 1 of the 3rd schedule of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, section 2A of the Electoral Act 2022 and part 1 section 1 of the regulations and guidelines for the conduct of elections 2022 as is mandated to conduct elections into the following executive offices and legislative houses. I'll tell you why I'm reading this specifically after I'm done reading. Say A. President and Vice President. B. Governor and Deputy Governor. C. National Assembly, which is the Senate and the House of Representatives. D. State Houses of Assembly. E. Chairman and Vice Chairman of the Federal Capital Territory (FCT) area councils. And F. Councillors of the FCT area councils legislature. If you have been following my channel, you will notice that I have done an extensive explanation on the FEC, which is the Federal Executive Council. You will notice that in the FEC, there are more persons on the council than just the president and the vice president. But we vote for the president and vice president. So it's the duty of the president to do what? Nominate the ministers. Same way for governor. It's the duty of the governors to nominate the commissioners, and it's the duty of the House of Assembly and the National Assembly to screen these nominations and then see if they are worthy of becoming the ministers and the commissioners respectively. That explains why the INEC do not conduct elections for commissioners and ministers and ambassadors. Those are appointed roles and positions. The next thing here is types and dates of elections. Yeah, there are different types of elections. There are three major types of elections here. There's general elections, there's the off-cycle elections, and there's the FCT area council elections. General elections are elections into the office of the president, the vice president, as well as National Assembly, which are held on the third Saturday in February of any general election year, while election to the office of the governor and deputy governor, as well as members of the State House of Assembly, shall hold 2 weeks thereafter, or as may be determined by the commission. I've already explained or make mention of the schedule of the next general election, which is in 2027. So I think that explains this. So the next is the off-cycle elections, and it just explains that any governorship election that falls due outside a general election, the election shall hold on the Saturday following the 100th day of the end of the tenure of the incumbent, or as may be determined by the commission. This means that by the date in which the tenure of the governor is supposed to end, they are going to backdate that by 100 days. So let's say, for example, the tenure of a governor is supposed to end in July. For example, the commission is going to count 100 days before that day and then fix the election around that time. Do you understand? So that's how they count off-cycle elections. And then there's the FCT area council election. The next thing here is polling units and collation center. A lot of us are not aware that there are several polling units, several polling units. Myself, I wasn't aware until I participated in the elections, and I noticed that in a street there can be multiple polling units in a street. That is why you need to be aware and take notes of your polling units. And let's just read what we have in the manual. What's a polling unit? It's a place established by the commission where voting takes place. In my previous video, the immediate previous video to this one, I explained that there are several polling units and you are only assigned to one polling unit. This means that at the point of registration, you pick the polling unit that is closest to your residency. That's where you stay. So if you are yet to register for your polling unit, for your PVC, ensure that while registering, you pick the polling unit that is closest to where you will be staying in the election here. Do you understand? So if you are presently in Lagos and you think you'll be in Oyo State for the election, so you pick your polling units to be in Oyo State in the location that you most likely would be in. So let's read. Where is a polling unit located? Polling units are located within enclosures in public places accessible to every voter, including persons with disabilities, PWDs. These public places include public schools, civic centers, town halls, and communal open spaces. Canopies may be provided for polling units located in open spaces. Note: polling units shall not be in places of worship, palaces of traditional rulers, and private homes. Yes, the polling unit where I serve as presiding officer was on the street, just in front of some shops that were closed for the day. So that means that your polling unit is not going to be in a church or in a mosque, or if or an Ifa shrine, or any kind of shrine, or the palace of any royal or traditional rulers. No, it's going to be in public space, where is a place that is accessible to everyone and anyone that is meant to vote on that day. The next year is, what is a collation center? The place designated by the commission where election results are computed and tabulated for each political party and winners of elections declared. So it is at the collation center that the winners of elections will be declared, not as the polling unit. Yes, I remember that this was stated while we were undergoing the training. Polling units are not the location for announcement of the winners of elections, and presiding officers do not announce winners of elections. They only announce the results to the party agents, and I'm going to also in subsequent videos explain the forms that are going to be given to party agents after the end of elections. Now is also the next thing here is, where are collation centers located? Collation centers are located within enclosures in INEC offices nationwide, or LGA area council offices accessible to designated election officials, party agents, observers, and media, including persons with disabilities. So this collation center is not for everyone, but your polling unit is for everyone. That means that as soon as you are done as soon as you are done voting, you shouldn't leave and go to your house immediately. You should wait or hang around till the end of the election, so that you can watch how the ballots will be counted and announced. You should always listen and pay attention to the numbers of votes counted and the total numbers of ballots that were no total number of votes that were casted. Now this is the most important thing for this today's video. If you are going to take anything out of today's video, it is this part that I'm about to talk about, which is the eligibility criteria for voters. What makes you an eligible voter? Not all Nigerians will be eligible voters, as much as yes you should, but this is going to tell you if you are going to be an eligible voter by 2027. So pay rapt attention. A person shall be eligible to vote at an election conducted by the commission if in compliance with section 12 subsection a subsection 1 a to e of Electoral Act 2022 and part 1 section 5 of the INEC regulation and guidelines for conduct of elections 2022. There are a list of the criteria for voters. A, he or she is a Nigerian citizen. Of course, someone from Cameroon is not expected to vote in Nigerian elections, or someone from Chad or Niger or even the US. No, you are not, unless you are a Nigerian citizen. B, he or she is a registered voter. Very important. So as I said, not all Nigerian citizens will be eligible to vote. So yes, all Nigerian citizens are supposed to, yes, but if you are not a registered citizen, if you are not a registered voter and you are a citizen, you will not be allowed to vote. So the next one is, his or her name appears on the register of voters. The next is, he or she shall present himself or herself physically, not by proxy, with a valid permanent voters card as the polling unit where he or she was registered. And the last is, he or she is accredited by using the beavers on presentation of a valid permanent voters card (PVC) at his or her polling unit. So this means that first of all, for you to be able to vote, you have to be a Nigerian citizen. For you to also vote, you have to have your registered voters card. You have to be a registered voter. You must come, your name must be on the register of voters, and that can be gotten either by the booklets that will be given to the PO or by the beaver. So you have to be accredited by the beaver. So once you give them your PVC, they would be, and they capture your face or your fingerprint, they will be able to know if you are a registered voter. One thing I need you to know is that you can't give your PVC to another person. That, oh, I have my PVC, probably you are ill or there's an issue with you. Another person cannot vote for you because your thumbprint is attached to your PVC. So another person cannot vote in your stead. Do you understand? The next thing is method of voting. Voting shall be by open secret ballot system, where voters thumbprint on the ballot for candidates of their choice in secret and cast their votes in the open. So there's going to be a polling booth where you go to cast your votes. You use your thumbprint on the ballot paper, and then you go and cast your vote in open. So what is secret about your voting is that you thumbprint in secret, but you cast your ballot in the open. That is why it's called open secret ballot system. It says voting shall be in accordance with the continuous accreditation and voting system procedure as specified in the INEC regulations and guidelines 2022 and the election manual and any other guide issued by the commission. So this is everything about chapter 1. We're going to talk about few things in chapter 2. Chapter 2 is just about election officials, stakeholders, materials, and equipment. This is the most voluminous chapter in the manual. So join me. Welcome back. We are talking about chapter 2 of the manual for election officials. Yes, it's for election officials, but you and I can learn. I'm sure you already learned about some things, what a polling unit is, where a polling unit is located, what the collation center is, and the criteria for you to vote in the next election. So please take note of all of this so that by 2027 it won't be a shock to you that you won't be able to vote. So you need to know all of this so you won't be at the wrong location also, because on the election day you won't be allowed to move far because transportation will not be available. You won't be able to move from one location to the other. So your polling units will be closest to your residency. So for example, if where you registered as your polling unit is not close to you, ensure that the night before you go to that place or go somewhere there, go stay somewhere close or somewhere like a trackable distance so that you can go vote on the election day. Vote for your preferred candidates. I'm not going to tell you to vote for. It's your choice to decide who to vote for. So chapter 2 of the electoral manual, it says election officials, stakeholders, materials, and equipment. So you need to know all of this. So I'm just going to pick certain things that are necessary for you to know. It says election officials should be guided by the following principles, which are integrity, impartiality, transparency, professionalism, gender and disability sensitive, and due consideration and support for the elderly, pregnant women, nursing mothers, and persons with disabilities. So do not get shocked on the election day that preferences will be given to these persons. You shouldn't expect that a pregnant woman will stand on the queue where there are hundreds of persons in front of her, or the elderly. You should allow those persons to go first because of their conditions. A pregnant woman will not be able to stand on the queue for hours, so she should be allowed to go to vote first. The elderly, either the male or a female, our grandparents, or as they call them, senior citizens, should go vote first. And persons with disabilities, those with clutches, those who are on wheelchairs, those who can't hear or see, those ones should be allowed to go vote first, and then others can vote later. So that's what this is talking about. So There are several officials and we are going to be talking about them briefly. The first is Resident Electoral Commissioner. The Resident Electoral Commissioner is the head of the commission in a state. The same way you have the governor as the head of the state, the same way you have the Resident Electoral Commissioner, and he has his duties and responsibilities. The next is the electoral official. Yes, the electoral official. The electoral official is the head of the commission's office in the local government area of a state or an area council, as in the case of the FCT, with the following responsibilities. So there are several responsibilities of the electoral commissioner, sorry, of the electoral official. Then there is the returning official, the RO, and the duty of this person is to collate the vote cast, announce the scores of the candidates, and declares the winner in the election in a particular constituency. So if you notice, earlier in chapter 1 we talked about the collation center. So it's the returning officer at the collation center that will do the announcement. So it's not the media person or the party agents that will do the official announcement. The person whose responsibility it is to make the official announcement of the results and the winner of the election is the returning officer. Most times, if I'm not wrong, most times they are usually the vice chancellors of universities. Yeah. So collation officers, the collation officers collate and announce the votes scored by candidates at any of the various levels of collation as follows. So there's registration area or ward CO, there is the local government area, there's a state constituency collation officer, and there's the federal constituency collation officer. So these collation officers will carry out their duties depending on their jurisdiction. So as I've read out, there's a registration area or ward collation officer. So this person cannot announce results for a local government, same way the local government collation officer cannot announce results for the state. And there is a state constituency collation officer. This person cannot or should not announce results for the federal constituency like that. Do you understand? So there are these persons for ease of carrying out elections during the election days and counting of elections. So there is also the senatorial district collation officer, there is a state collation officer, and there is a chief electoral commissioner. Yes, the chief electoral commissioner. I would like to read this. His duty is to collate and announce the results from all the states of the federation and FCT in the presidential election, and is the returning officer in that election. This shall be the chairman of the INEC. He or she completes form EC40HB PW Big Voter Information and Statistics. That's basically it the for the electoral uh, officials. Also, we have technical support staff, which are the RATEX, registration area technical support. So if there's going to be a technical support, it's the RATEC that's going to do that. There's the next position I would like to talk about is the supervisory presiding officer. And it says here that the supervisory presiding officer, SPO, supervises the conduct of poll in a cluster of polling units in an RA, that is a registration area. So the supervising presiding officer's duty is to ensure that the polling units are functioning as they are supposed to. So a certain number of polling units are put under the supervisory presiding officer. And the next is the polling team and responsibility. So under the polling team and their responsibilities, there are 4 positions, which are the presiding officer, the assistant presiding officer 1, the assistant presiding officer 2, the assistant presiding officer 3. So there are 4 officials for the polling team in a polling unit. So the duty of the presiding officer is to handle the ballot paper issuance and the PU overseer. That means that the presiding officer is the overseer of the polling unit. So the person at the peak position at the polling unit is the presiding officer, the position I held once. And that means that the party agents do not come ahead of the presiding officer, who is most likely always a core member. The police also, please note, the police is not the head of the polling unit, it is the presiding officer. So in your polling unit, and if there's going to be a police officer who is going to be overriding the core member, you should know that that person is wrong and should be called to order. So there is also the APO1, who is more or less the clerk for verification. The duty of the APO2 is to check in the voters, to ink them and statistics. Then APO3 is to handle the queue, as the queue controller and the PVC check. So it's the duty of the APO3 to check the PVCs. Oh, are you with your PVC? Check the card. This is your piece is matching. Okay, move to the APO2, whose duty is to check the register to ensure that that voter is actually registered for that polling unit. Then it goes on to ink the person's finger and then moves to the APO1 for verification. So the voter gives the PVC to the APO1 for verification and accreditation. Afterwards moves to the PO, the presiding officer, for issuance of the ballot paper. Yes, the ballot paper. So as soon as you've gotten your ballot paper, the next thing is to go to the booth, thumbprint, and then go outside to cast your ballot. And that's all. So the next thing is then to go into the materials, and we'll be doing that in our next video. Thank you very much for watching to this extent, and I'm sure that you've learned one or two things at least. I'm sure that you've learned how that there are criteria for you to be able to vote in the election, and I'm sure that you are going to go through this and ensure that you are going to be a registered voter to come 2027. And I also need to remind you that PVC registration is going to close on the 17th of April. So ensure that as soon as you are done watching this video, you go straight to your browser, search for INEC registration portal, and it will take you to the portal where you register for your PVC. As soon as you are done registering online, the next thing is to go to the physical registration center to do your biometrics and wait till you are told to come back for your PVC. Ensure you do this and get registered for 2027 general elections. If you are yet to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please ensure you do so that you can see subsequent videos and learn more as we prepare for the 2027 general elections. Cheers. God bless Nigeria always.